Joe's mom's neighbor, Doug, and I think most of us don't tell the people who are on our air quote board of directors that they're on our board. Joe, I know I'm pretty much the chairman of your board, but you've never once told me that I'm on your board of directors.
There's a lot of moving parts and a lot of moving pieces that are going on when it comes to retirement. You've got your required distributions, which have changed over the last 5 years from 70.5 to 73. They're changing to 75. There are some years in there where they weren't required because everybody was sick. So F it. You don't need any money, apparently. We don't need to tax you on it. I don't know the logic behind that, but whatever. There used to be lots of tax bills associated with that. If you screwed it up, they went, we're just going to change that too. So there's a lot of stuff going on with the IRA world of you've saved money and now the IRS is saying you have deferred the taxes long enough. It is time for you to start paying income taxes. You don't have to consume the money. You don't have to, your required distribution this year is 10 grand. You don't have to go spend 10,000 in the economy, but we're going to tax you as if you earn $10,000 and you're going to pay us that tax money. What you do with the money is up to you. So you've got that going on.
Hey there, Stackers. Welcome to a live recording of the Stacky Benjamin Show. I'm Joe Saul-Sehy, and as we bring our team on stage here, we'll introduce them in just a minute. But what you're watching is a live show that is going to be for a little bit in the future. I think this is, what's the date on this, that you'll see this in our audio feed, Doug?
It's the 13th.
Yeah, 13th of September. So we're working a little bit ahead because of the holiday, because of some travel by the team. So you sit back and relax. The team
is traveling.
The whole team.
What part of the team is going to Peru?
The team.
Wow, we haven't even started yet, and I'm getting it. We're going to have some fun because, as I said, the team is traveling.
The team is traveling.
Isn't the team also going to Chile?
Yes, and to Minnesota tomorrow. It's funny, and I got a note from Paula.
It's funny how the team does a lot of traveling, and Doug and I stay here in the basement. But
I got a note from Paula canceling a recording of Afford Anything, and on the bottom it said, "I don't know, because Joe's either in Chile or Peru or maybe Minnesota." Like, I don't know, can't keep up. Who knows?
Yeah,
yes.
I knew you were going to be in one of those three. I just wasn't quite sure which.
Come join me in Minnesota tomorrow, everybody. We got we got almost 50 stackers coming to join us for a fun get together in Stillwater, which I told everybody was south of Minneapolis. And it turns out, I don't know directions because it is East Minneapolis. It was
50
good.
Stackers going, yet not two of the most important ones.
Well, you could have booked a flight, man. I wasn't stopping you. I think AA.com is still open. OG's working on AA.com. He's got a
I
nice
was going to
drink.
say, they sell airline tickets? Weird new business model.
Got a nice drink with him. All right. We'll stop by to say hi to everybody at the halfway point. If you've got something that you want to talk about on this topic, we can open up the second half with it. So feel free, whether you're with us on Twitter/X or on YouTube, to say hi, and we'll take a quick break at the halfway point. All right, Doug, you ready to do this?
Yippers.
All right, here we go, everybody. Quiet on the set.
Live from the basement of the YouTube headquarters. I don't even think they know we're down here. It's the Stacking Benjamin Show. I'm Joe's mom's neighbor, Doug, and we're more than halfway through the year. So how are this year's goals coming along? To help you get your ass in gear, we welcome the host of the Best Interest podcast, Jess Cramer, and a woman whose number one goal is probably to hang out with us, from Afford Anything, Paula Pant. And finally, the guy whose goal is to teach his kids not to park the car in the living room, it's OG. And speaking of goals, I've set a mark right now to stop this podcast halfway through and demand that we play my trivia challenge. And now, a guy whose goals probably include not telling old guy stories, it's Joe Saul-Sehy.
We'll try to stop for the next hour, but then it's game on again, Doug, the second that we're done. Isn't it bad when you find yourself becoming more like the characters in those Progressive commercials? Like, don't become your parent. Could be very, very much.
You were the model for those.
Scary. Like saying hi to everybody in the elevator. You ever had somebody do that, by the way? It is creepy. It's like, hey, no. I'm going to stare at the wall for a little bit. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Creepy Old Guy Stuff podcast. I'm Joe Saul-Sehy, and we have some fun to start your weekend. We're going to talk about goal setting, and the guy across the card table, he's goal setter extraordinaire. Mr. OG's here. How are you, man?
I think my favorite one of all of those is when they have to throw the stuff out. They're by the dumpster. And they've got like all their stuff, and the one guy shows up with like all the floor mats, and he's like, do you still have the car? He's like, no. He's like, you go. He's like, but he's like, no, it goes.
My favorite one is how they're talking about.
You never know when you're going to need it. Yeah, you're never going to need it. Like he just like cuts him off.
My favorite is the one where they're parking before the big game. They're parking way out in the back 40 so they can get out early.
I have done that so many times. It's like, no, this is a great exit. It's like, but we have to walk 100 miles to the stadium. It's like, but we'll get out first. It's like, no, we won't.
I compliment the produce manager to the overall grocery store manager. Absolutely do that.
Well done.
He's stacking. Doing a great job stacking
Tim
lettuce.
Over in produce, that guy's awesome.
Yes. The woman, by the way, who is the lettuce stacker on this podcast, Paula Pant's here. I have no idea what that means, Paula, but it sounds good.
Yeah, stacking Benjamin, stacking lettuce. I can stack whatever needs to be stacked.
Stacking lettuce sounds like you're stacking money, doesn't it? I mean, it can be a euphemism.
Yeah, I like it because it's kind of stacking. Well, there's a lot of food metaphor with money.
Cabbage.
Like there's cheddar,
Yes, yeah.
Cabbage isn't cabbage like a financial institution? With cabbage with a K?
With a K.
Cabbage
yeah.
With a K?
Yeah, but isn't stacking cabbage? I mean, that's a euphemism for stacking money, I think.
Oh, I hadn't heard that.
Yeah, lots of cabbage in that deal.
I was thinking there's cheddar, there's let's see, what other food is there? There's milk?
Avocados.
Stacking avocados? I don't know. That's a lot of avocados.
No.
I had no idea.
Guacamole,
and the guy,
obviously.
The guy wondering, he's the gold digger on this podcast. Jess Cramer from the Best Interest podcast. I'm just reading his YouTube phrasing down there.
We need to say that a little bit slower it's goal digger. Two separate words. I'm digging the goals.
Just to be clear, not gold digger. Your spouse didn't think you were the gold digger in that relationship?
I don't know. That's actually funny. She might have. But either way, I mean, she's stuck now, right? There's no turning back.
Yeah, I've never met her, but she's got to be your better half by far, Jesse. I've known you for a while. So
correct. Yeah. It's like, it's not really 50-50 better half. It's like 98-2.
For the three people that haven't heard your appearances on the Stacky Benjamin Show, tell them about the Best Interest Podcast, the podcast I always call the Better Interest Podcast.
Yeah, the Best Interest podcast. There's also a blog and a little weekly newsletter. I like to just dig into fun little financial planning and investing topics, explain them in hopefully easy and sometimes funny ways, and just spread some cool education around the financial nerd community.
Spreading education like a virus. The Best Interest Podcast.
I love that tagline. I love that. You thought COVID was bad? Subscribe here.
Too soon.
Wait, I can't figure out why nobody's signing up. Right?
Get infected.
You know who likes to get people infected with better small business tools, Jesse?
I don't. I love that segue though.
State Farm loves. They're gonna hate that, Paula.
They are so. We're gonna get an email from corporate.
we totally are. State Farm, yeah. State Farm is there. This episode's brought to you by State Farm. If you're a small business owner, it isn't just your business, it's your life. Whatever your business might be, you want somebody who understands. That's where small business insurance from State Farm comes in. State Farm agents are small business owners too. They know what it takes to help you personalize your policies for your small business needs. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Talk to your local agent today. Well, today, what we are talking about is this idea of goal setting, because Doug, as you insinuated in the open, it is now mid-September, guys. And how many people are going, wait, it's September? And I've even started on my goals. So we're going to talk better goal setting today. Maybe we can get some stuff done as the fourth quarter approaches. But before that, State Farm's not the only sponsor on the show. We got a couple more that make this show free for you to listen to. So let's hear from these awesome companies and we'll be right back. Jess Cramer's here, Paula Pant, OG, Neighbor Doug, and me. So let's get this party started, shall we? Our headline today, our topic actually today, I'm so used to saying headline from our Monday, Wednesday shows. Our topic comes to us, as it does on most Fridays, from a popular blog in the personal finance space. This one's actually from the human development, the self-help area, Raptitude.com. I've never seen this one. Jesse, Paulo, G, have you guys seen this one before? Raptitude.com?
The name sounds familiar, but the layout of the website doesn't look familiar. So I feel like maybe I've heard about it, but I don't think I've actually read it.
Yeah, Jesse, you're nodding your head. Yes.
Yeah, I definitely, I'm kind of similar. I know for sure I've read at least one post here before, and the name is definitely familiar.
Well, and I wanted to kind of highlight it because as I read not just this piece, but a lot of pieces, man, there's a lot of good stuff here to dive into. But today, while we're talking goal setting, his headline is "Do Quests, Not Goals." And we'll get back to the idea of quest in a minute, but there's been a lot of this, as I mentioned, people going September already, feels like if you're thinking that, I think your goal setting function might be off. Paula, where are you at with your 2024 goals? Feeling good or feeling behind? Because I'm certainly one of those people feeling behind.
It depends on the specific goal. There are certain goals where I feel ahead, certain where I feel behind, and then certain that I feel not exactly a lateral move, but I feel like I've made progress, and in the making of said progress, I have discovered that the result I envisioned is not going to, basically I've discovered that there's more like complexity to executing the goal than I had originally anticipated, which causes me to then iterate, not the goal itself, but iterate the process.
I love that though.
Yeah. So, and then with enough iteration, it ends up kind of deviating from the original vision enough such that by the time we hit September, it's almost a totally different vision entirely.
But it's funny. I think that part of the reason people don't get goals, and we'll broach this topic even deeper later on, Paula, is just the fact that we feel like internally, if I start walking down this road, this closes all those other doors. And what you're really saying is that by walking down toward this goal, yeah, maybe it closes some doors down here, but it certainly opens up 5 new doors that you didn't know existed.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. Jesse, how are you doing on your goals 2024?
The goal that comes to mind is a health goal. I mean, that was probably my biggest goal for the year. And, not doing great on it. Got to be honest with you guys. A little bit of yo-yoing, a little bit of 2 steps forward, 2 steps back, that kind of thing.
You don't really get much exercise yo-yoing.
Correct.
It's you usually got to run or lift weights.
Correct. My Fitbit just tells me, tell you what, here's the problem. If you get caught in the wrong circumstances vigorously yo-yoing, it's not a good look.
People don't recognize there's a yo-yo on the end of that hand going up and down.
They don't.
Sorry, I shouldn't have painted that picture. That was maybe a bridge too far. State Farm's not going to be the only one reporting us.
But yeah, it's I tell you what, I really enjoyed the article, and I know we'll get into it later. And I just kind of went down a bit of a rabbit hole this afternoon, reading more about, goal setting tactics and the things to think about when you're setting goals and all that kind of stuff. And it helped me think that maybe I'm not approaching this goal the right way to begin with. But yeah, it's always been hard for me. I've always kind of had a bit of a health and fitness goal in the back of my mind. And I think it's slowly slipped away from me over time. I've slipped down the slippery health slope that maybe many listeners can relate to, but yeah, so it's not going great, Joe, to answer your original question.
My feeling about fitness goals, especially, Jesse, is procrastination is your friend for 2 reasons. Number one, you always have something to do tomorrow. And then second, you're not that busy today. Like, it's great. It frees up time all around by just not doing it. So, OG, how about you? How are your 2024 goals coming along?
Well, I work on a different schedule, so I'm just about to start 2024 goals because I work on a different
fiscal calendar
than everybody. So I'm doing really great because I haven't started yet. It's like, Joe, you and I are in Strategic Coach, and one of the great comments in Strategic Coach is, it's not that you have bad goals, it's just that you have bad time frames. And, if you just need to give yourself a little bit more time to accomplish those things. We've all heard the saying of, most people overestimate what they can get done in a year and underestimate what they can get done in 10 years or 25 years or something like that. And that's really true. And, on the health related thing, or just about any goal for that matter, it really, I think, has to be a focus on progress and the experience. And I know that's kind of what we're going to talk about here in a little bit, but it's like, if you think that there's a beginning and you think that there's an end, Jesse, to your health goals, just wait till you're 10 years older.
Yeah, it's true.
And that's a whole different ball of wax, brother. Like, it's just like, it's just, there is no point at which you go, okay, I'm healthy enough right now. I'm good. I never have to do this ever again. Unlike maybe some financial goals, which frankly, I would disagree with that those are ever done either, for that matter. But some people feel like if I can get to, if I get to 170 pounds, I'll be lean and then I'll be done. It's like, well, no, you won't. Now you have to maintain 170 pounds. Now you have to build a whole system around that. So I know that's what we're going to kind of dive into.
Yeah, it's got to be not just the goal. It's got to be a lifestyle. It's got to be a change.
It's just who you are. Wayne Dyer, years and years and years ago, I know you were were you a little bit of a fan of Wayne Dyer?
I love Wayne Dyer. Yeah.
Love
Wayne.
He's passed away many years ago, but he was like one of the very few people that I could get hooked on PBS, like whatever those things, what were those things called where they would the
PBS money drive, fun drive,
the little seminar, and then it'd be like, it cut and it'd be like, if you donate $1 a day, you can get all of Wayne Dyer's CDs, whatever. And they would, have them and stuff. Like, I would stop on a Saturday afternoon and be like, oh my gosh, Wayne Dyer's on. But one of the things he had, a story that I remember, and I still use it a lot, is if you have an orange and you squeeze it really hard, what comes out of it? It's
juice.
Orange juice, right? Well, what happens if you're inside of a dark closet and you squeeze really hard? What comes out of it?
Orange juice.
What happens if it's the middle of the day and you're out in the sun, you squeeze really hard? It's orange juice. It's always going to be orange juice. Everything is, whatever's inside is always going to be expressed when there's pressure applied. And so whatever's inside you is always going to be expressed when there's any sort of pressure, regardless of the external, whether it's good or not so good. And so when it comes to like health or financial goals and that sort of thing, it's like whatever your soul is what's going to come out when there's pressure applied. If you love eating chocolate cake every day for breakfast, listen, you're going to eat chocolate cake, man. You just need to work around it. Like embrace the process. Embrace
Can we have a big group hug so I can find out what's going to come out of me?
You know what comes out of me? Vitriol and whiskey.
Hi, welcome to the Wayne Dyer cover band podcast. He could start a Wayne Dyer cover band.
Roger Whitney, our friend Roger Whitney, knows what happens if he gives me a hug.
Oh no. I don't want to know.
You should ask him one day what happens when you try to hug OG. It's
what does happen?
Unpleasant for everyone.
You got to tell everybody because nobody's going to know except me. So what is it?
Oh, I was having a very bad day golfing, and Roger's a touch.
Well, that never happens, Doug. That never happens, Doji.
No.
Well, I shot a 77 last week, so I did have a good day last week.
Yeah,
but
one golf story has ever started positively. All the rest of them are.
So there I was, 3 birdies in a row. No, I was having a bad day, and Roger's a touchy-feely guy. He likes to put his hands on things and people, and so he's like, "I'm going to give OG a big giant hug right now."
Why does he say that the worst possible way?
Well, if you're into that, it's cool. If you're like me and you don't want to be hugged right now from Roger in Mexico and you're sweaty and hot and he wants to give you a big giant teddy bear hug, there was an anxiety. There was some claustrophobia that went on. Maybe
didn't work out well.
Changed.
For
Get
anybody.
your hands off of me or I might kill you.
Wow.
Somebody might have said that. I don't know. But
wow.
I thought maybe you squeezed too hard and you farted.
That can come.
I thought the story was going to involve a yo-yo.
Are we talking about goal setting? Does anybody want to talk about goal setting?
Roger was playing with his yo-yo again.
How do we get to hugging Roger Whitney in the middle of this?
I love it.
The interesting thing though about your Wayne Dyer story and about pressure being applied is that I think you got to apply pressure to yourself. I remember Paula, your best friend, Susie Orman. Susie and Paula get along really well. Susie said, one thing I really liked, she's like, oh yeah, don't think you can save any money now, or don't think you can work toward that goal now. She's like, imagine yourself 70 years old and you've done nothing. And it's funny because I did that for a second and I thought to myself, Paul, I'm like, wow, I need to think about future me. And Jesse, maybe to your point, you think you could end up like Doug later, like scare the hell out of yourself and you'll go for a run immediately. Paula, what do you
No, to be clear, I love Susie Orman. I really do. I think she's sharp, she's brilliant, she's very, she's very successful, and she's built that success on helping millions of people with their money, helping millions of people get out of debt and build their net worth and save for retirement. So I've enormous respect for her.
She also helped you acquire some fame.
She spoke with enthusiasm about her feelings around the FIRE movement, and that ended up going quite viral.
Yeah.
But but a lot of that was around kind of a semantic, the semantic discussion around what is the word retirement, which is like, we don't need to go down that road because we've already talked about that 1,000 times. What was your original question?
It was putting pressure on yourself by looking at your future self and going, you know what, if I don't do anything, how is this going to look?
Right. Exactly. And, there have been studies done in which if you take those face aging accelerator apps, there are these apps where you can take a picture of your face and then you can see what your face looks like when it's aged. And there are actually studies done that show that if you do that and you can visualize yourself in your 60s, your 70s, your 80s, you are actually more likely to do the habits that are in service of your future self, both with regard to your health and with regard to your money.
Wow, there's a great thing that OG, you and I did in Strategic Coach that was just transformative for me, which is imagine yourself a year before you die, and how do you want people to think about you? And you write all those things down, and then they ask you, okay, if you do all those things, how much longer would you live?
Yeah,
And I was like,
you still want to die in a year.
I want to be a great husband, good dad. I want to be a resource for my community. I want to be healthy. I want to not worry about money. I didn't say I want to be rich, that I don't want to worry about money. They said, okay, if you're all those things a year before you die, like if you're doing all this stuff, how much longer do you buy yourself? And I wrote like 9 years I buy myself if I do that. And then they said, well, why are you waiting on all those things for later? Like, why are you thinking about this when you're in your 80s? Why aren't you working on those things now? Like this whole idea of future you. But Jesse, I want to go to you because this blogger David makes a couple of assertions about goals. He says, number one, just the name goal. You know, you hear about corporate goals and what's our fourth quarter like? Where are we going with goals? And goals just seem so whitewashed. It's not inspiring. Plus, he says, a goal sounds like something you expect to not be working on now. It's something that I can do later. Like, hey, if I set my goal on January 1st, I can think about it in September. What'd you think about that?
It helped me. I mean, again, I kind of read this article and looked through the lens or framed it selfishly, as maybe we're all want to do, and kind of put myself into the article and said, okay, how does this apply to me? But yeah, it made sense to me, the idea that it can be helpful to, rather than frame goals, as OG alluded to, as having these finite beginnings and endings, to instead think of them as journeys, as ongoing quests, right? He used the word quest in the article, I think. And the idea that, sure, along your quest, you might have mile markers, you might have milestones, you want to stop by this place first and that place second, but it never really ends. It's not really about the ending to begin with. It's about how you learn and grow and change along the way. And that way, because it can be hard. I find it pretty hard when I don't meet a goal. If I put myself in the old framing and I don't meet a goal, it's a bit of a self-esteem bummer. You know, am I a failure? Do I not have the discipline? Do I not have the ability to overcome my habits? You know, all that kind of stuff. Whereas I think if I think of it as a quest and it's ongoing, and I know that there will be struggles, there'll be hills to climb, there'll be pitfalls along the way. Well, now that's just part of a quest. That's just part of an adventure. And it's more about, can you bounce back? Do you keep going? That kind of thing. So if this sounds a little bit like The Hobbit, it should. I mean, that's how I thought of it. You know,
yeah,
life's a big adventure, and you don't know where you're going to go when you step outside your door. But I thought it was a pretty interesting way of reframing the whole goal setting paradigm.
Well, what I like about what you said is that when we think about the fact that we didn't achieve our goals, like, I don't know about you guys, but I spend a lot of time that I should be moving, instead looking in the rearview mirror with self-loathing, going, God, I wasted all that time. And then you waste more time thinking about how I wasted time, versus I always feel better when I just, you know, put one foot in front of the other. OG, I want to read you something from this piece. David says, still, the tendency is to wait for a better, less cluttered stretch of time to appear before you work on your goals, right? I'm going to work on my goal as soon as life gets less cluttered. You'll execute your great plans as soon as life becomes a little easier and more spacious than it is now. I don't know about for you, but that line really resonated for me, that, hey, I'm just going to wait till life gets easier. Then I'll work on my goals.
Yeah. Yeah. When things get easier. Sure. Right. It's like listening to my kids talk about how hard school is. And I'm going, listen, guys, this is as easy as it gets. This is the easiest day you're going to have the rest of your life. Fifth grade will not be easier than third grade. I mean, I get it. Calculus is hard. I understand this, but it's not easier than this. Like, this is when your biggest stress is like, I got problem number 6 wrong. Like, that's a pretty low stress day for in the history of your life. I mean, the Tony Robbins, big goal fulfillment kind of coaching person, you know, whatever he calls himself, I don't know. But one of the things he said, I think years ago, which really resonated with me, was don't ever leave the sight of a goal without doing the next logical first step. And I think a lot of times we think of, okay, I'm going to do this health thing. I'm going to pick on you, Jesse, because I think everybody here is working on something, and it's like, we go, all right, I want to, well, maybe not Doug. He's already a physical specimen. We already know. But, I want to lose this weight, or I want to go to the gym, or I'm going to, exercise, do so, like whatever it is, I'm going to eat healthier. And it's like, what's the easiest first thing that you can do in pursuit of that? The minute that you decide that that's the thing that you're going to do, it doesn't have to be something complicated like, well, I need all new cycling clothes because I want to learn how to cycle. I mean, that's a big thing, but you can say like, I'm going to download the app, or I'm going to go in my refrigerator and throw out all my junk food, or, I'm going to make a list of my grocery shopping for the next week, or, or I'm going to call the gyms to see what the pricing are. There's lots of different.
Yeah, or you can send a video of yourself and your golf swing to a good friend of yours who's a really good golfer and get his thoughts on your golf swing, only to have him say, it doesn't matter what your swing tempo is. If you're going to blade that 6-iron, you still suck.
Maybe he says that, he's just.
Well, Paula, Jesse, that sounds very, very specific.
Precise.
I mean, I'm just making up, for example,
That's what my health coach said to me too.
Yeah. You will always be fat if you keep on eating like that.
If you're going to blade that 6-iron, Jesse, you're like, what are you referring to?
Right. Well, my point is that when it comes to, the opportune time is right now. What's really, look, it sounds so silly. It sounds so obnoxious, especially with things like money or health. It's like, I was listening to a guy who did I was watching a YouTube about this guy who does like health challenge, like workout challenges, whatever. And so he runs these things, he gives away promotion and, money to the winners and stuff. And he's talking to the winner of this 12 weeks, like not, a 12-year challenge, a 12-week challenge, which by the way, 12 weeks ago was like the middle of July, right? It's like, it's still recent enough that we all kind of remember when it was, or the middle of June. And so anyways, he's talking to the guy. He's like, well, what did you do every day for cardio? And he's like, oh, I walked. I walked a lot. I did 25,000 steps a day.
Wow.
It's like, oh, geez, that's a lot. You're like, what did you do for eating? He's like, well, I ate the same thing every day. Yeah, I ate chicken and rice and broccoli. And for breakfast, I had a protein. He laid it out. Well, what did you do for strength training? Oh, I worked out every day for an hour, different body parts, 6 days a week, took Sundays off. And it's like, okay, yeah, it must be nice to have all that time. But the dude dropped like 35 pounds in 12 weeks. And went from being like a disgusting fat body to jacked and tan. And it's like, holy crap, like 12 weeks is nothing. It's nothing. In 12 weeks from now, it'll still be pumpkin spice latte season. Like we won't even have transitioned to peppermint, lattes yet. Like it'll still be that time. And yet we go like, I'll start later. Like, dude, if you got a money goal, freaking open a brokerage account, put $50 in it. Just see what happens, right? Like do the next logical thing. I thought that I was always super powerful and just enough to kind of, not always, but sometimes get me off my keister and go.
Isn't it amazing how 12 weeks in retrospect is the snap of a fingers? But 12 weeks looking forward seems like
looking forward. It's like
forever.
Like a 12-week challenge. What do you mean? I can't eat ice cream for 12 weeks? Are you kidding me? It's like,
it is funny, the difference. It's the same amount of time, Jesse, and it feels completely different.
Yeah. And the important thing is to remember that the version of you 12 weeks from now, which I think maybe it was you, Joe, you kind of alluded to this before, like future you is super duper real. Maybe not 100% real. Like, right. That airplane could land on the highway this afternoon and take me out. Like we talked about it before here on the show, but it's a very slim chance. It's a very slim chance. And 12-week version of me from now is super real. And I owe it to that version of me to do something, to take that first step, to go for that walk, and start my journey here in the next 12 weeks. Anyway, I'll leave it there at that. The listeners understand.
Some people do callbacks to like the beginning of the show. Jesse calls back 6 weeks where we were talking about airplanes landing on him in the middle of a field. If I remember correctly. Yeah.
On the highway.
I remember that. It was because it's a super specific fear, right?
Correct.
That you would be in your car.
Correct.
And then an airplane lands on you.
Well, I
it's
want
a
to
fear of yours. It's not actually happened.
It has.
I don't think I was a
happened,
part of
actually.
this conversation.
No.
I want to explore this more.
I think we'll
Maybe
let it go.
later.
Thank
Maybe
you.
later.
This, let's just talk about leasing versus buying a car again, so I can stick the pencil all the way into my eye. Paula, I want to end the first half of this discussion with another great point that he makes. Then he says that this tendency to wait right until your life is less cluttered is exactly backward. He says forming and achieving aspirations is how life actually gets easier and more spacious. I don't know about you. I found that to be true every time in my life. Like if I actually achieve a goal, my life gets way more spacious.
Yeah. Yeah. It reminds me of if you want something done, give it to a busy person.
Mm-hmm.
So if there is something in your life that is a priority, you find the time for it, you make the space for it, you move. If something's truly a priority, you move mountains to make it happen, and you take whatever sacrifice is necessary in order to make that thing happen. And so oftentimes what happens is if you decide that something is a priority, whatever that thing may be, naturally the things that are in your life that are a little bit ancillary or superfluous will just start to fall away, right? So
Yeah, not even intentionally.
yeah, exactly. It'll be subconscious. Like maybe instead of taking a lot of times it's the aggregation of a lot of small things. Instead of taking 15-minute showers, you're suddenly taking 5-minute showers, right? And you have an extra 10 minutes in your day which you can spend put towards
not
stretching.
showering. Yeah.
Being stinky.
I was going to say stretching because you're lifting weights all the time, but sure, that too.
From all the
Also while you're
yo-yoing
thinking.
you're doing. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love our ability to ruin a great analogy. We're so good at it. I think we'll stop on that note. In the second half, I want to talk about, Jesse, what you alluded to. He then talks about going on a quest. Sounds a little nerdy, sounds a little weird, but I don't know. I kind of like it. We'll talk about maybe is a quest what we should be after here for the last 3.5 months of 2024 and beyond. But at the halfway point, we stop the show for just a moment while we have this year-long competition between our 3 frequent contributors on the show, Paula Pant, OG, and Mom. And Mr. Cramer, you're playing for Mom today, which brings up some good news and bad news. You want the good news first or the bad news?
I'll take the bad news first this time.
Well, the bad news is you're not winning. You're in second place. And even more bad news, OG pulled further ahead last week. So he's got 12. Mom has 9. And Paula almost tied you last week had she just moved, I think, just a couple dollars in the opposite direction. But she didn't, which is apropos for Paula.
Story of my life.
And so Paula has 8. So Jesse/Mom with 9. OG's got 12. Paula has 8. Are Jesse/Mom or Paula going to make a run out of this thing? We're starting to run out of time. We only got, about 10, 11 weeks left? Well, we need a quiz question to find out. Doug, what's our question this week?
Hey there, stackers. Had to wait for the music. Hey there, stackers. I'm Joe's mom's neighbor, Doug, and today we welcome Jess Cramer back to the show. Let's be honest, though, who really wants to hear Jess Cramer on a money podcast? What people probably would prefer, and no offense, Jesse, you can include me in on this, is Jesse's slightly better known cousin, Jim Cramer. Now that would be a show. Jim Cramer has done everything. He started thestreet.com. He says, sell really loud. And he ran a hedge fund called Cramer Berkowitz and Company. While Cramer's results coming up with stock recommendations on the spot is sketchy at best, when he ran his fund, he solidly beat the S&P 500 nearly every year. So here's a question. During Cramer's tenure from 1988 to 1996, the S&P 500 averaged 15% per year. What was the average return of Cramer's fund? I'll be back right after I go get more stock recommendations from Joe's mom. I'm pretty sure she is the next Jim Cramer, the way she yells at me to quiet down during Squawk Box.
She's a yeller when you're disturbing her CNBC fix, Doug. OG, we've got 15%. average annual returns for the S&P 500 during Cramer's reign. What's the average annual return for Cramer's hedge fund during that time?
Well, Doug helped us by saying it was better. Isn't that what you said? That part of the info, that it was better. But I don't think it was much better. That's a big number during that time, you know.
Yeah, 15 per year.
15 is a big number. So I'm going to keep it pretty close. And I'm going to say, you said 15.8 was his number. I think was the, is that what I heard correctly? 15.8, somebody?
Didn't we just say 15?
I thought so.
I think we just said 15. Yeah.
Oh, okay. There was Doug stuttered again. My bad. So 15. I will go slightly above that and say 17.3.
17.3. Jesse, what are you going to do with that?
No idea. He's my uncle, Doug.
Oh,
for what it's
sorry.
worth. Uncle. But it's still, I don't blame you. I know there's a writer behind the scenes, so come on.
Does he yell sell, sell, sell like at Thanksgiving?
It's pretty bad. My mom brings out the pecan pie, buy.
Right.
It's like it's pie. It's not buy, but it's all good. My lucky number is 22, so I'm gonna go with 22%.
22%. And Paula.
Oh boy. I think 22 is too high. I'm going to be. My first thought when I heard the question is, I don't think he beat it by that much. I mean, we know that he beat it, but I think it was the first number that entered my head when I first heard the question was 17%. So the question then, OG, your guess was, what was it? 17.3, you said?
Indeed.
Oh, so the question is, do I go 17.2 or do I go 17.4?
Oh, no.
Or 23 or 22.1 to take all the upside.
Wait, so OG's was
or
17...
18 point whatever and get halfway in between.
OG, your guess was 17.3?
17 and a third. Yes.
17.3. Okay. I'm going 17.31.
Why don't you say 0.311111?
Well, I mean, his guess was
0.00000001.
technically 17.3000000. So I guess mine could be 17.300001.
There we go. So we got 17.3, 17.300001. And we've got 22. Who's right? We will find out in just a moment. We'll be right back. All right, let's say hi to everybody on YouTube. Hey there, tweeters, by the way. Glad you're here. Leonidas or Leonidas? It's Leonidas reviews.
It's gotta be Leonidas.
Yes. Annette's here, tuning in from Pittsburgh. Hey, Annette, we were just talking about you last week, by the way. You'll hear us on Friday's show. We're talking about you and the cool stuff you get from the library. So glad you're here. E-Boone is here. Hey, E-Boone. E-Boone's got the party hat on. Jeff B here with us. And Rocky Mark, who's normally in, I think in Colorado, is in California. So glad you guys are here with us. Among others, say hi if we got somebody else here, and we'll say hi again at the end of the show. All right, everybody.
Hold on, Joe. Hey, before we jump back in, Jesse and Paula, I'm coming to you at the end of the show, at the wrap up.
Okay.
Cool.
All right, here we go. 3, 2, 1. OG, you opened up in what I think was pretty good faith. With the number, what was it, Doug? 18.3?
17.3.
17.3. How you feeling now that Paula gave you a haircut?
Yeah, I don't think it was very much. I don't think I don't think he did. I think I'm feeling pretty good.
17.300001. Paula, you feeling better this week? Because you took the wrong side last week.
I know.
And maybe 100 times before that.
Yeah, no, I'm worried because I honestly, I think I could have gone either 17.29 or 17.31. And I think I'd have a good shot with either of those. So I'm feeling 50-50 about what I picked.
And Jesse, these guys are much closer to 15. What made you go way out on a limb and say 22?
I was born on March 22nd. So that's for starters. That was the first part of my guess.
Were you truly born on March 22nd? You're just making crap up.
No, I am. March 22nd.
Okay.
I'm in
All
a
right.
race. So it's like, okay, his average was 15. I think somewhere in the Doug said he solidly beat the S&P 500.
Ooh.
So I don't know.
I didn't pick up the adjective.
I was like, okay, he might have beat it by a few.
And
That's not a few though. That's almost 50% higher. I mean, if you think about it.
I mean, I get it. But it was only an 8-year stretch, right? 88 to 96, 9-year stretch, something like that. And he's famous now, so he must have got famous somehow. Although I will say, all the attention that you guys are paying to this whole 17.3 versus 17.30, it does have me worried.
He only does that to make it hard for me to do the math to figure out. That is when he does all this decimal crap. It's an attack on me. It's the only.
He's not
reason
talking
he
about
does
you,
it.
Jesse. He's talking about OG. Yeah. That's where the 0.3 came from. Well, let's hear who our winner is this week. Doug, what do you got?
Hey there, stackers. I'm market maker and small caps everywhere, except you know where. Joe's mom's neighbor, Doug. Oh, look at the glow on Jess Cramer's face. It's that same youthful exuberance that I remember having when I first started the show, before I figured out I wasn't getting paid. And I'd have to listen to OG and Paula wax poetic about tax loss harvesting and capital gains treatments. Oh, to be young and naive again, like Jess Cramer. But not like his uncle/cousin, Jim Cramer, who's the subject of today's trivia question. We asked what return Cramer had from 88 to 96 in his hedge fund when the S&P 500 was averaging 15% per year. How much did Cramer's fund average over that time frame? Well, I can tell you it was 4.7% more than OG guessed and 4.69% more than Paula guessed, making the correct answer a suspiciously exact 22%, making Mom and Jesse the winner today. Very weird.
Well, Doug, that's not
in a row.
That is, I was going to say, that's not the weirdest part. We've had one person nail it exactly twice in a row. We launched a formal investigation because we were sure she was cheating. We were so sure she was cheating.
Now we have our second cheater.
Jess Cramer on twice in a row. Gets it, doesn't win, gets it exactly right.
And the other nice thing is he gave us his birthday, so now we know how to unlock his iPhone. Because now we know the 4 digits of his birthday.
That's right. We know.
Can you guys see that?
And he's showing us his ID.
Yeah, 322.
You know this is on the internet, right?
I covered all the important numbers.
Yeah. What, Jesse, what elementary school did you attend?
Oh.
What's your mother's maiden name?
Yeah.
What's your grandmother's first name?
It's about to answer that.
Your
What
first
are the last
dog's
4 of
name?
your social?
Can't
Just,
give it away.
Yeah.
Wait till the next time you have me on, and
What's
I'll
your porn
include my
name?
social in the answer for that question.
Pick your favorite color out of these colors. What was your first make and model of your car? I love it. I love it that Facebook, the Russian bots will do that on Facebook to all the boomers.
Yeah.
Like, post a picture of your first car. It's like everybody's like posting pictures. Mom, don't. No, Mom.
No, please
No.
stop. Please stop.
I will say, I'm a little nervous though, Joe, about no matter what rationale I have for my next wild pick, I'm concerned about getting it right.
You
I'm
better be
genuinely
wrong.
worried
Oh, we're
about getting
concerned
it
too.
right.
Yeah.
Like, I
After
hope that I
twice
know
in a
the-
row,
I hope that I
being
know the
spot
answer
on.
next time, so that I just avoid the right answer.
Don't get me wrong. Doug and I are always thrilled when because Paula has this inability to catch up with OG, so we're glad somebody's doing it. So that part's good. And maybe if you have to cheat, okay. Well, maybe. No, I'm kidding. We don't want that either.
No.
And actually, Doug, the person that The two that we gave Jesse were not that broad. They were small numbers like this. I think the last person who shall remain nameless, we asked like what the length of the Dead Sea was, and she got it to the number.
Yeah, I think it was like, what's the total volume of water on Tuesday, April 17th in the Dead Sea?
And she said something like, "Oh, I homeschool my kids, and we were just talking about this." No, you weren't. There's no way you were talking about that. Well, we're talking about goal setting, and the second half of our discussion is brought to you by depositaccounts.com. Jesse, you know what happens when you go to depositaccounts.com?
Something good.
Well, these guys aren't cheating when it comes to showing you where the best interest rates are on savings accounts, CDs, checking accounts, or money markets. They compare more than 275,000 deposit rates from over 11,000 banks and credit unions. They do it for free. If you're at one of those major banks, they're paying 0.0, like a Paula Pant number, 0.00001.
Exactly.
National average is 0.5. So even if you left those banks to go to the national average, you get a big win. But listen to this. If you're in the top 1%, which is hundreds of banks, and they're all listed at depositaccounts.com, 4.92 is what a savings account's paying for the top 1%. It's easy to compare. Depositaccounts.com. Big thanks to them for helping us with the second half of our Friday shows now for years and years. Okay, the second half of this discussion, we were talking about this idea that maybe it is a quest. And he starts off this idea, Jesse, that goal setting should be systematic. How do you set goal-based systems to make your goal setting better?
Yeah, it can be hard. I mean, financially, I know, the go-to that worked really well for me and that I recommend is the whole, anything that you can automate is almost always going to be better, right? Behavioral economics, what is it? Richard Thaler, that whole thing is, if you can set it and forget it, if you can take an action once that then automatically repeats itself over time, whatever it is, direct contributions into a Roth IRA, that kind of thing. That's the kind of system that is going to work in your advantage over long periods of time. One of the hard things, again, depending on the goal itself, is like, how can we set it and forget it and automate these things? And earlier, OG was talking about, right, the one smallest thing that you can do. And it made me think of the whole atomic habits point. Can you atomize your habit, literally get down to the smallest part, the smallest component, and kind of think of these small components one after the other, and create a system that kind of leads you down this path. And so I think that's maybe a good tip that I should implement more myself. But this idea of, if I do have, say, a health goal, because that's the thing we've been talking about today, can I get that membership? Can I set up my clothes the night before so that when I wake up at 6 a.m., my clothes are ready and I don't have to worry about that thing impeding me from hitting my goal? It's that kind of stuff that I've heard, haven't always put it into practice, but I've heard can be really effective.
That's a great system that works really well for me, by the way. Set out the goal, set out the clothes the night before, and I get up and I don't even think. I just put the clothes on and I'm already out the door, and I'm finally going, oh, this sucks. But I'm already out the door, which is...
Sure, it's easy when your mom does it for you, Joe.
OG said this before. That's the hardest part, is getting mom to do it. Paula, he talks about this as a quest. Don't think about goals, think about quests. And he says that a quest is an adventure and you should expect your life to be one. Are you down with that analogy?
Yeah. What I love about that is that a goal is all about the end result, whereas a quest is about the process, right? The adventure, the process, the journey. So it's not about the end result at all. It's about the getting there. That's the book. That's the movie. That's the adventure. That's, and that's where the focus should be, because those actions are completely inside of your direct control. They're within your circle of influence. Whereas the end result is technically outside of your circle of influence. It's, by repeating specific actions, you increase or decrease the likelihood of certain end results. But ultimately, the end result is outside of your direct control, whereas the actions that you take on a day-to-day basis are within it.
You're saying fall in love with the activity, not with the end result.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because the activity then is the adventure. Oh, gee, I want to read the next piece to you. He says a quest changes you, not just your situation. Goals are practical attempts to change your circumstances. A quest is personally transformative. The endeavor itself shapes who you are and what you're capable of. That also sounds powerful. You down with this idea?
Sounds a little over the top, a little flowery in terms of the language. This weight loss journey will change who you are. I mean,
well, but
yes,
if you get
it
used
will
to being the
change how
person
much
that wakes
you
up
are.
and if you get used to the person who's on your bicycle all the time, you start referring to yourself as a cyclist. I mean, as an example.
Yeah, well, yes, but I don't know. I think all of this boils down to, being okay with. So somebody said something earlier about habits, right? Like, oh, I have to change my habits. Whatever. No, like you already have habits. You already have the habit of going to bed at late and sleeping in, or you already have the habit of eating crappy food for breakfast or whatever. You have to replace those things with different habits. It's not like we put a lot of stank on making all of these changes. And back to our time frame, discussion, whether it's 12 weeks or a few months or whatever. It's like we put a lot of energy and emphasis on oh my gosh, how hard this is going to be and how challenging it is, and all these sorts of things. It's like literally, it's like 12 weeks. It's not that big of a deal. Just do it. It's $100 and you're Ross.
Yeah, but I think
Like,
the OG, what he's saying
but
here is different, which is if you do something for 12 weeks and to your point, you get ripped and things are great, but you go
Jack and
back
tan,
to
yep.
donuts and sleeping in, it didn't change you. It wasn't transformative at all. It was 12 weeks of doing something. And then after that, you're back to, you know what I mean?
Because you were working on, and I agree with this in terms of the concept of having a goal versus having to be the journey. If you're saying, hey, I'm getting married in 12 weeks and I need to fit in my dress or I need to fit in my tux, and I made it. I know somebody who did that. Like literally leaned out, like everything was, you're going, oh man, you look great. Like everything was, and 12 weeks later was like, boom, like literally it was like the sound happened. It was like,
Say, I need that sound effect in my life.
It was just like, it was like, badoing, like all at one time. I mean, so yeah, that's the impact of having a goal versus being like, I am the person who works out 3 days a week. I am the person who takes care of my health. I'm the person who makes sure that my financial life is in order. I'm the person who pays cash for cars. You know what I mean? Like when you say that your brain does not know the difference between imagination and reality. You can't tell the difference.
We've talked about
this before.
Yeah, we've talked to Darius Faroo on the show recently. Paula, I know you've talked to Ryan Holiday before. Mm-hmm. Like, I think, Paul, about this idea of Seneca talking about, forget about the future, about this goal thing. The present is all you have. So enjoy do your best work right now. I feel like that's kind of what this guy's saying.
Yeah, absolutely. Because that's the other thing about goals are a future orientation, whereas the adventure is a present orientation. And so by reframing from goal to quest, you reframe from future to present, and present is all there is.
Jesse, Satya Nadella, the CEO of Microsoft, has said that his favorite book is, what's the book by Carol Dweck called about having a growth? Is it called Growth Mindset, or is it?
It's about fixed and growth mindset.
It is. It's about the growth mindset. You familiar, Jesse, with what I'm talking about?
I'm not familiar with the book. No.
But it based
having a growth mindset. Sure.
Yeah. It basically is about this idea that you might be wrong and that your experience might not be optimal, so that, instead of spending all your time defending ridiculous positions and saying, nope, I'm perfect now, you go out saying, how am I wrong? How can I grow? What can I do? I also feel like changing this from a goal to a quest, and I'm on this quest. You're literally doing that. You're looking at how could my life be better? Like you're looking for these growth opportunities.
Oh, the name of the book is Mindset.
Mindset. Yeah. I had growth mindset.
Yeah.
I went with the wrong word. 50% chance that I Paula Panted it.
No,
sorry, Jesse.
No, you're good. You're good, Joe. No, I like it. And I'll tell you what, a quick little aside, and I won't go into any sort of terrible self-promotion, but my personal journey of creating my own little blog, my own little podcast, my own little corner of the internet, and proving to myself that I could grow it to something bigger changed my personal mindset when I look at people like you guys who have done something like that, but 100 times bigger, 1,000 times bigger. And I'm amazed at what you've done. But it's also just changed my mindset toward the idea that an individual person can persevere for a few years, can go on one of these so-called quests and actually achieve something pretty cool. And when it comes to growth mindset, I mean, the way I perceive that is the fact that opportunities out there, if only you would go out and grab it. And sometimes it takes, I don't know, 10 years ago, I'm not sure I would have thought that way. And it took me actually having to go through it myself and see some minor semblance of success to say, oh, if you do it, maybe there is a little pot of gold at the end of that particular rainbow. So I don't know. I'd be interested. Like I said, you guys have been doing this kind of thing for longer with much more success. And before you started your personal journey here, I mean, did you expect that you had it within you to end up in this spot right now?
To end up talking about yo-yo jokes with weird sexual connotations attached? Yes,
exactly.
Probably.
You always had it in you, Joe.
I was fairly certain talking about OG's anger management issues on the golf course. Yeah, maybe. No, but you know what's funny is for me personally, I don't want to speak for you guys, but I never really thought about that. It was more the adventure in the moment, you know, the fun conversation that we were having and the wonderful people you're talking to. So, I mean, my goal was always to show up and try to do your best work. But yeah, it is interesting. You go down the road, to your point, on the quest, and serendipity happens. OG, I want to end with this last point that he makes here. He says, and I'm coming to you specifically because I feel like this is a riff on stuff that you seem to say all the time on the show. He says, a quest, if you think about this as a quest, always has a dragon to slay, right? But then his parenthetical after that is, it's inside you. Like there isn't this quest for the outside stuff. It's actually fighting this stupidity going on between your ears.
Well, I read the article and then I read some of the comments, and the first comment that was there was about the really awesome book by Stephen Pressfield called War of Art. Mm-hmm. And if you haven't read that, it's a part of a trilogy of 3 books that he wrote. But one of the books that I reread at least once a year, you know, there's kind of a cycle of the ones that, you know, that I kind of go through. And War of Art is probably one of the best mindset books that are out there. And it's really all about the concept of procrastination and having the persistence and the discipline to kind of overcome that. He calls it in his book Resistance. We talk about, when we say something about a dragon, we're talking about the phrase that I use is slaying the wrong dragon as it relates to market investments or whatever. But all of this stuff is really about what's going on in between your ears, you know, back to whether it's time frame, whether it's discipline, whether it's grit, accountability, you know, whatever it is. It's like everybody has the same amount of time. Everyone has the same 24 hours a day. You know, you just have to decide to do it. And one of my, one of the things that I remember learning about some years ago was the etymology of the word decide. And the side part of it is, you know, like to cut off from, right? It's like, you know, if you think about all the words that have side on it, right? Like, you know, whatever, like homicide, anyway, everybody can think of a couple of words that end the word side, right? You know, and what does it mean? It means like to cut off from. And so like literally when you decide something, you've cut off from all other choices. And when we internalize that and go like, look, I've decided that I'm not going to accept this in my life or whatever. All of that is internal, because all the other stuff, whether it's, you know, you're going to work out or you're going to save money or whatever that ends up being, that's an outcome, you know, to what Paula was saying. This is, if you focus on the outcome, worse experience. It's who you are. And when you tell yourself, I am the person who, you know, gets up at the crack of 8:15 every day and walks to the coffee shop to get a cup of coffee. Like, that's good, right? Like, know yourself. I'm not the person who's going to get up at 6 a.m. and laying out my clothes in the morning. I would sleep right through that alarm at 6 a.m. But I am the person who gets up at the crack of 8:15, and I can design. I have the flexibility to do this. I have the flexibility to design that into my morning, right? So I can go do my walk from 8 to 9 to go, walk down and get coffee. If I try to do that at 6, that ain't happening. But I've decided that I'm the person who gets up in the morning and goes for a walk. So
that's what it's going to be.
Cut off all other paths.
Paula, how do you fight that dragon on a daily basis?
I think by getting incredibly clear about what I'm not going to do. On a daily basis, it by knowing what I'm not doing on a daily basis, it really brings into focus what I am doing.
What does that mean? What are you not going to do? What's an example of that?
So
mine's like a double negative, Paula. It's like I'm not going to have a donut.
Yeah. I mean, it could be that, it could be, all right, I've decided rather than deciding what you are going to eat, you decide that there are certain things that you're not going to eat. Like, all right, I'm not going to have processed sugar. That would be an example. Within business, there are certain things that are like mission critical, like absolutely core. And then there are other things that are ancillary. They fit what Cal Newport refers to as the any benefit hypothesis. These are the things that could have some conceivable benefit, but they're not mission critical, right? And if I'm working towards a goal, deciding that I'm going to filter everything through the lens of, is this mission critical or is it ancillary? Sure, it may have a benefit, but does it have the maximum benefit for the investment of time? Is the delta in outputs worth the delta in inputs? Right.
Gotcha. Jesse, how do you fight the dragon?
Well, how do I fight the dragon? I'm not sure I have a great answer there, but I will say when I read that quote that a quest has a dragon to slay and the dragon's inside you, it made me think of the hero's journey. Was that Joseph? Can't think of his last name.
Joseph Campbell.
Thank you, Paula. Joseph Campbell, the hero's journey, this famous like archetypal story that just all humans for some reason bond to. And, at some point we're at our worst, and some would say that's, whatever, the pits of hell, or we're slaying the dragon, whatever it is. But ultimately, for many of us, like there is no real dragon. We have to overcome our own, whether it's bad habits or our own predilections, whatever it may be. And yeah, I can certainly relate to the idea that oftentimes I'm the one who gets in my own way the most. And what Warren Buffett's quote, "The chains of habit are too light to be felt until they're too heavy to be broken." That's a great quote too, right? And so essentially the dragon for me is probably just like bad habits that I need to break. So I don't know, but I'm going to re-listen to this because I need to think about your guys' wisdom again, and maybe I'll have a better answer the next time I'm on.
I wonder if all Warren Buffett does is sits at home and comes up with pithy quotes. Like, I'm like, how is this guy such a quote machine? How many times have we quoted like different things that Warren Buffett has said? It's just so amazing. There, it just blows me away. I think it's a great place for us to leave it. I hope people are better fortified to go meet their goals for not just 2024, but into the future. I do like this idea of fall in love with the action, not the outcome. I think that's a big piece of the heart of what he's talking about. Of course, we'll link to it on our show notes at stackingbenjamins.com. Let's find out what's going on where all of you are creating brilliance. Oh, gee, what kind of brilliance you're creating this fine September weekend?
I don't know what September weekend it is, so I can't tell you.
It's some weekend in the
14th
present.
and 15th.
It's going to be tomorrow.
15th.
Yes.
Well, if everything goes according to plan, we are recording this a little in advance, and I'm trying to get reservations to a fantastically hot new restaurant in Dallas. And I will report back if we happen to get them. I get the emails that are like, "There's a table available," and I click it and go, "Sorry, it's already taken." So
Did they finally open a Culver's?
we have Culver's. They have okay ice cream. It's not that great.
Not like we're going back there.
You know, there's a secondary market for selling restaurant reservations.
Yeah.
I know. It's because
Yeah.
it's all bought by bots. It's like all the story about the city bikes in Manhattan, like the secondary market of like how they're manipulating the supply demand, how gangs of kids are manipulating the supply demand market of
Oh,
city
I
bikes.
didn't.
I've heard it's bots, Paula, and the restaurant people working in the restaurant. As soon as they know something became available, they go
Ooh.
buy it
Yeah.
immediately or reserve it immediately and resell it.
Wow.
Insider trading right there.
We
Yep.
had we were going to Napa a couple of years ago and Cheryl really wanted to go because it was around her birthday to the French Laundry, the famous restaurant.
Who doesn't?
Yeah.
Good
And so
luck.
they open up 60 days ahead of time. They open up reservations. I think it's 65, but 60 might've been 45, but anyway, certain number of days and at midnight. So she waits up till midnight and literally on the stroke of midnight tries to make a reservation. Reservations all gone for the entire day. I mean, like think about for an entire day at this top restaurant, how many reservations that is. And at 12 o'clock and 3 seconds, they were all gone.
Mhm.
Couldn't get in. So instead we spent 16 buckets of money at his other restaurant, which isn't as famous. So,
Per
cause you know,
se.
yes. Bouchon, I think it was called.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, to Bouchon. Okay.
Bouchon. Good stuff. That's fantastic. Paula, what's going on at Afford Anything?
On the Afford Anything podcast, we have an interview with Leslie Zane. She is a Harvard-educated expert at marketing and branding, and she talks about how the principles of marketing and branding can be applied to any time you need to convince anyone of anything. So if you want to talk to a spouse about getting on board with financial independence, if you want to talk to your boss about giving you a raise, a lot of these principles, the principles of marketing, can be translated into any domain. So we have that interview on the Afford Anything podcast.
I love this site. I love this idea. I remember management guru Tom Peters in the late 90s talking about brand you and about how no matter who you are, Paula, you have to be brand you. And whether you work for somebody else, you're in a big corporate environment, you're in a small company, it's not just entrepreneurs that need the brand. We all need the brand. So that sounds really cool.
Exactly. And she said the same thing as well. That was one of our, one of our establishing questions. I was like, just to be clear, when you say that each person is a brand, you're not referring to influencers. You mean a person who may not even have any social media accounts is still a brand,
It's funny because like I'll have conversations with people. I remember when my kids were in school, you'd have conversations with people on staff at the school and you're like, wow, this is what you're presenting as your brand. Like this is really, you're putting your worst foot forward. Like, wow, maybe would have done that differently. Jesse, thanks so much for joining us again, my friend. Super fun as usual.
Thank you guys. Had a blast.
What's happening at the Better Interest? What's happening at the Best Interest podcast?
Let's see. When this episode airs, I believe a new episode of the Best Interest podcast will be out with Katie Gotti Tassin. Do you guys know Katie from the Money with Katie show?
Oh,
Yes.
I'm
Katie?
talking to her in about an hour.
It is so weird that we were talking about Katie today.
Tell her I said, hey, well, Katie's episode will air. And if you don't know Katie, she does a really cool job. She kind of zooms out on, I'd say she focuses on like these socioeconomic topics that of course have ramifications when it comes to personal finance. But she kind of looks at these topics and says like, why is it the way that is the way it is? Why does the medical system and the insurance work the way it is? And then she's very funny and very verbose isn't the right word because that means you talk too much. She doesn't talk too much. She has a great command of the English language, and I just love listening to her and reading.
Loquacious was probably
Loquacious.
the word you were looking for.
It totally was the word I was looking. I didn't even know that was
Scoreboard.
dog. Trust you. I trust you on that one. So
I also appreciate Jesse how blunt she is. I mean, she's not going to pull any punches.
Totally. So I'm excited for that episode with Katie to be in everybody's ears when this episode comes out.
That's fabulous. You definitely want to listen to that. Katie is incredible. And we actually, just a couple of weeks ago, Stackers, you may remember the discussion. If you heard this Friday show, we talked about a piece from Katie's blog about being part of society, and about, is DoorDash, Uber, all these Instacart, are these ruining society, and us taking care of each other. It was
a piece about renting everything.
Nope, that's a different one.
That was a different one. Oops,
yeah,
sorry.
That is a different, but their answer, they're almost the same though, Paula, in a lot of ways. But it's funny, we came down differently. I think we largely came down on, DoorDash might not be the best thing all the time, but renting everything could be.
Sounds great. Yeah.
It's wild how we came down.
The DoorDash one was the one about asking people for favors. That's right.
Yes, absolutely. So that is on the Best Interest podcast, where finer podcasts are found. And we'll link to that, and also the Ford Anything show in our show notes at stackingbenjamins.com. That's going to do it for today. Thank you so much, everybody that hung out with us live on Twitter/X, everybody that hung out with us live on YouTube. Glad you guys hung out and watched the sausage being made, as it were. It's time to figure out, though, what should be on, speaking of goals, what should be on our to-do list, Doug?
Well, Joe, here's what's stacked up on our to-do list for today. First, take some advice from that cheater, Jess Cramer. He said that, that one thing about the stuff. It was mind-blowing. Hey, Jesse, can you summarize it for us?
Well, the one thing, I suppose when it goes on quests, not all those who wander are lost. How's that one, Doug?
Wow. Did you quote that right now?
Oh, it's from Lord of the Rings.
Oh, I thought you made that up right now. I was going to say that was great.
Second, Paula really knocked it out of the park when she said that thing that's definitely not superfluous or ancillary.
But very loquacious. Very loquacious.
What was that
So
one
loquacious.
again, Paula?
Oh, the thing that I said was that, you've got to look out for insecticide. Let's see, there's herbicide. There is fungicide. Fratricide.
But the big lesson, word to the wise, Jesse, if mom asks you if you want a Hertz donut, don't ask her what it is. Just say yes. If mom's happy, and we're all happy for another week. And we get to keep podcasting down here for free. So just roll with it. Thanks to Jess Cramer for joining us today. And in the future, you'll find Jesse's own podcast, the Best Interest Podcast, wherever you're listening to us now. We'll also include links in our show notes at stackingbenjamins.com. Thanks to Paula Pant for hanging out with us. You'll find her fabulous podcast, Afford Anything, wherever you listen to finer podcasts. And finally, thanks also to OG for joining us today. Looking for good financial planning help? Head to stackingbenjamins.com/OG for his calendar.
And it's a wrap. Nice job, everybody.
Garrulous. Jesse, we also could have gone with garrulous for Katie.
See, that's another good one. Now.
Doug's got a thesaurus on his desk. Don't sweat it. He doesn't know any of those words. He was looking it up.
Yeah,
I'm glad I didn't use garrulous. That would not have been a loquacious. Isn't the right word either. Oh no, she's gonna be mad at me, Doug. I want to say
think
that
loquacious is apropos.
She knows great words.
Did you guys see that there was something recently about that thesaurus truck that crashed and bystanders were mortified, terrified, whatever. It just keeps going with the words. Dismayed. All right. Let's say goodbye to people on YouTube, and then we'll say goodbye to everybody on Twitter. YouTube. We'll see you later. Bye-bye. Thanks for hanging out. All right. And let's say goodbye to everybody on Twitter. See you later, Twitter. X. Bye-bye.